Well, Rachel, thank you so much for joining the Okotoks podcast.
It's my pleasure, Carlin. Thank you for having me on.
Yes, and you've been a town councillor since 2000.
Yeah, yeah. I ran in that election. This is my first term.
Yeah, good for you. And elections are coming up, and you still, like the mayor, aren't sure if you're running yet or haven't made the announcement, or are we all waiting for an official date to make the big announcement?
Yeah, I'm still undecided. I'm still undecided. So, and when I know, I will make sure people know on the social
Yeah,
media.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Well, today we're going to cover a few topics, but the first topic that we're going to look at is the dog park in Okotoks. Now, the dog park is 17 acres of basically it feels like native prairie almost up there with spectacular views. It's such a great part of Okotoks, especially if you're a dog owner. If you're not a dog owner, I'm sure that it's maybe sometimes you're wondering why that was never developed. Rachel, we were just talking earlier, you have the history as to why that was never developed.
Yeah, so that actually, the dog park is the site of the Okotoks gas plant. And it was actually donated to us through Nexon. And so that's why it's never been developed. And there's restrictive covenants on that site because of the old use that restrict us in developing it further, and especially doing any ground disturbance. And I bring that up because folks have asked, can we do this or this on the site? But because of the history of the site being like an old gas plant, there are issues on how far we can dig underneath the soil. So it does have restrictive covenants on it. And that's why we have that big, beautiful piece of land, but there's not houses or anything on it. And we've been able to use it as a dog park because it's a surface level activity.
Right, right. And yeah, and there's so much good about having that. And obviously, no doubt some environmental issues under the surface. So the dog owners certainly do benefit from the environmental issues there. I was listening to a podcast earlier just about dog parks, and they say dog parks are like a cocktail party where everybody is drunk. You can go and have a beautiful time, or you can go and have a really rotten time. And there's certainly a lot of great things about the dog park. I think of the people of the dog park, like Hartley and Janice, who walk around that dog park with Home Depot buckets, picking up other people's dogs' poop. And they're basically serving the people of of Okotoks there, and they don't seem disgruntled. They're just out there doing it. Jason, the guy that's has multiple dogs out there because he walks dogs. He's out there picking up after dogs as well. And then Mark, who brings water on a regular basis. And I know that there's others out there, and there really is such a great community at the dog park, but there are certainly some issues that come along with a dog park as well.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm glad you brought up the folks picking up the poop and all the names that you mentioned. I actually have another like list of names of
Yeah,
people that have messaged me that also pick up dog poop because they're like,
right.
Councillor Swendseid, like this poo is out of control and this
Yes.
is what we're doing about it, right? So there really is a community that's taking care of it. And I think the dog park is a good example. Well, it's not the best example, but a good example of like the tragedy of the commons. And I'm talk about this for a second. And we have we have a common resource that we're all sharing. But if we all don't use that resource wisely, right, it can deteriorate. And with the tragedy of the commons, usually that resource gets depleted, whether it be, an agricultural field or whether it be a water resource. But nothing's getting depleted in this sense. But if everyone is leaving their dog poo, this common good does deteriorate, right? And so it's really up to the people that use that resource to take care of it, even though they think their one action by letting their dog poop and not pick it up won't matter. It really does when you have hundreds of people. So those people that are picking up the poop are really doing such a big service for our community. And the people that use the dog parks, so thank you for picking up other people's dog poop.
For sure.
Yeah,
No, and we are so grateful for that because
yeah.
especially in the winter, and then the spring comes and then it melts. And if nobody did that, I guess, I don't know. I guess there's a little bit of a mentality, and let's give some grace, I guess, to people, because sometimes your dog is behind you and you're not looking at your dog 100% of the time. But inside of that, I think we could all maybe pitch in a little bit. And if we do see some dog poop out there that's not from our dog, maybe we can all pitch in and help out and do that. However, there certainly does seem to be a certain mentality amongst, and it would be a very small percentage of the people that do use the dog park that choose not to, I guess, to pick up their dog poop. And so you wonder if, has the town ever got to a point where they start talking about some kind of user fee or some kind of pass in order to get into the dog park?
Yeah, we haven't discussed that. Since my time on council, every spring I do get comments from dog park users saying, like, it's kind of gross sometimes, right? When everything melts, and they're like, well, what can the town do about it? And what I always say is that I know that there's different animal rescues. They do kind of like a community cleanup, which is really, really wonderful. When I say community cleanup, like they do like a dog park cleanup. So I suggest they can help with those organized efforts, and just to, let your fellow residents know to clean it up. But we've never talked about doing a user fee or anything on that. And I don't know if, like, for me, I don't know if that, to me, it's like, it's the same as a park. Like, I don't know if they're, in Okotoks, I don't know if a user fee would really be beneficial, but it's one of those things. If the users don't use it properly, it's to their detriment, right?
Right.
That's, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Or it's unfortunate you have to get to this point, or even have some kind of, where the bylaw officer, somebody goes for a walk, and if there's a certain amount of poop, that they could threaten to close it down for a few days until it gets cleaned up, right? And it's just, again, it's such a small percentage of people that don't do that ruin it for everybody. But it certainly is. And then you have the issue of not just the dog's behavior, but sometimes it's the owner's behavior as well. Because, there are certain times that bylaw do show up there because of an incident that did take place. And, you're bringing a lot of different personalities with the dogs and with the owners. And there's a lot of different expectations as to proper behavior at a dog park as well.
Yeah, definitely. I'm glad you mentioned bylaw too, though. I have told folks before. I know bylaw do patrol that area sometimes, and it is like there. It's if you don't pick up your dog poo, like it's against our bylaws, right? So like it sucks to have to like report people that they're not picking up their dog poo. But if bylaws there and they're patrolling, like it's if they're not going to do it, they're definitely a resource. And it's also really unfortunate that bylaws had to been called regarding like the people interactions.
Hmm.
I have two dogs. I love dogs. I have two big dogs right now. I also had a little dog, and so I frequent the dog park as well. And sometimes, for sure, it can be dramatic, and it is unfortunate. I guess it's just like another again. It's in a common area where human beings are interacting, and people have different ideas on what's acceptable dog behavior and not. So I think it comes down to being a good neighbor and really communicating clearly, but also at the same time, we do have acceptable dog behavior in that park. Like if your dogs are, aggressive, etc. If they're not welcome there, because it is like it's a shared resource, right? So hopefully people read the sign before they walk in and accordingly.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
well, it certainly is, a benefit to the town, and certainly should never be an expectation that the town, has to deal with the issues. You would hope that it can be self-managed to some degree.
Yeah.
And that goes along with the poop issue as well, right? You would hope that people would realize what a great resource it is, and it's something that we don't want to lose. Because, I've also seen comments like on social media where people want to have a dog park, or, an off-leash place by the river. And I think you addressed that last August on Facebook.
Yeah, and I think it's a really good point that you bring up. And I look when I did my campaign, I campaigned in the dog park. Like I don't know if anyone watching this remembers, I had a table, I brought my campaign signs, I had coffee, and I had like food, and I campaigned in the dog park because I wanted to hear from the dog park users about what was important to them. And the reason why things like dog parks are so important is because it's a quality of life enhancer. There's things in your life that if everything is going horrible, you have these pieces of joy in your life. And one of them, for some people, is their dog, right? It's going to the dog park. It's beautiful there. You're going for a walk. And part of my job, I think, as an elected, running your elected officials, is making sure you have those pieces in your community that contribute to your quality of life. And the dog park is one of them. And that's why I'm so invested in making sure this dog park experience is what people want, and again contributes to the quality of life. And that's why I have heard from people that they would like access to the river. And I completely understand it. Like I said, I have 2 large dogs, and gosh, it gets hot in Okotoks in the summer, and there's no shade up there. So I did address that in a Facebook post, or like a live in August. I brought it to council. And would you like me to share a little bit about that discussion,
Sure.
Carlin?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And so basically the challenge is that, folks, we do want access to the river for our dogs, for shade, for cool, right? It's also shady down there. The challenge is that, the watershed, our riparian areas are really, not fragile ecosystems, but they really need to be taken care of. And there is an opportunity to have, access to the river with dogs, but with that comes a huge responsibility to take care of that piece that would be off leash. And when I brought this to council to try to see if we could do that, the challenge is that if people aren't picking up after their dogs in the river valley, any runoff, right, that happens either through rain or through flooding, all that gets put right into the river, right? There's no treatment, there's no going through wetlands for filtration. It goes straight into the river. And so it was hard for me to make the argument that water quality wouldn't be impacted if we had an off-leash park in the river. And the other challenge with off-leash parks in river valley areas is sedimentation, right? So you have your dogs running, you have people walking, and again, it's just sedimentation in that river. The Sheep River doesn't have a huge flow. It doesn't have a huge flow. People say, well, Councillor Swendseid, in Bow River, in Calgary, they have, X, Y, and Z off-leash parks. And sure they do, but the flow of the Bow River is substantially larger than the flow of the sheep. And in the summertime, we often have warnings on the sheep that people can't even fish because of low water levels and high temperatures. And you add on to that an off-leash dog park in the river, and it's just not in the best interest of that aquatic ecosystem. So we've had that discussion. I have advocated hard for it, but at the current state, I don't think we're going to see an off-leash park.
Right. And sometimes you can't fish in the river. I've never heard that.
Yeah, sometimes they have. I'm trying to find the word for it. I can't find it right now.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, Fish and Wildlife, they put out warnings about when it's low water and high temperature, it stresses the fish if there's any angling. And it happened a couple of times last summer as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's certainly a great thing to have a dog park. I saw a few months ago someone was putting posters up. It's just like, let's lobby town council for more dog parks. And the thing is we do have 17 acres. I know that for some people on the other side of town it will take 10 minutes to get there, or if they hit a train, 12-15 minutes. It's a little bit of a pain, but it's also something that there might be cat people out there that well, do we need to have a cat park, or do you know what I mean? And then there's some people that don't have pets, and they're like, well, why is my tax dollars going towards, poop bags? That's another thing. I sometimes see people just like going for it. They're taking 20 poop bags, and I'm like, come on, that's more. Anyways, that's a little bit of a pet peeve of mine, but it is certainly a great thing. And Wedderburn's putting in a smaller dog park. So then once that's set up, it looks like they're getting close to having that done. Looks like they just need to put the grass down and put up some fences, and we'll have a second one. But that's quite a bit smaller, I think. Is it even an acre?
I don't know the exact size of it.
Yeah.
And it won't have any it'll have mature trees maybe eventually, but it won't be the shaded experience
for sure.
People would like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we shift gears a little bit?
Sure, of course.
Yeah, talk a little bit about our town. Now, obviously, traffic and speeding is no doubt something you guys hear about all the time. The noise. Like, I believe, is there supposed to be a noise study being done this year?
Yeah.
Has that started?
The pilot is going to be underway this spring, summer. We're just in the process of procuring the sound radar guns. So we are going to be trying that pilot this summer season.
Okay. And then that takes place for a couple months.
Yeah. And then we'll get a report back in the fall.
So yeah, and then they will make recommendations as to what to do with sound, or
yeah, for sure. What we're going to look at to see is are the sound radar guns are they effective? Are they working? Can they be upheld in court? Is it doing the outcome that we want it to do, which is to reduce noisy vehicles in Okotoks? And so all those questions are going to be kind of provided back to us, and then we're going to decide whether we want to keep that program if we want to buy more of them. Also, every one of those radar guns needs to have a personnel behind them, obviously, right? So we have to look at what did the staffing look like? Did it take, staffing away from other parts of municipal enforcement in order to do this? So we'll receive that report in the fall, and then we'll decide whether we want to make it a permanent project.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And, speeding, I saw a post, I think it was the mayor, I think, that posted something on Facebook just in regards to speeding and just how they're noticing increased speed volumes. And then she also mentioned about reporting it as well to bylaw if you see somebody that's speeding. Now, that I would imagine people probably hesitate to report stuff just because everything that means to follow through with that. Do you know much about that in regards to the reporting and then what the responsibility falls upon the person that reports that is?
Yeah, I love this question. And we just talked about it actually, I think a month ago with municipal enforcement and RCMP and council. So please, if you see anything suspicious or if there's something like like speeding, noisy vehicles, please report it. All of it matters. And it matters for a number of reasons. One, the RCMP mentioned it matters because sometimes those tips that you provide, like, oh, that doesn't seem right, they use it in their cases, right? They receive these tips from somebody and then they can help solve, some of the things happening in town. Second reason is it's all data. The more that you report noisy vehicles or traffic or speeding in an area, the more targeted our enforcement can be for those hot spots. So again, that's another reason to do it. And then I know sometimes folks are the number one reason in our last survey, our safety survey, on why people don't report is they think, my thing that I'm calling about is too small, right? Like it's not a big deal. And like, what's going to happen anyways? But like I said, every single, data point matters and they will collect your information. But I want to say too, none of that information is only collected to call you back and to close the loop. Right. And everything is anonymous. So I know sometimes there are people who are afraid of reporting because they're like, I don't want, people to know that it was me that was reporting, but it is all anonymous. And the reason they're collecting your information when you call is so that they can close the loop with you once they've investigated whatever complaint that you have.
Okay. So just a question for you. So if something ends up going to court, does that person that made the call have to go to court then?
Oh, Carlin, I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
That's a good question.
I think personal experience.
Yeah. Tell me.
I think I won't go into detail, but I think the person that does the reporting may have to go to court if the person doesn't pay the fine, right? So obviously they have to be busted for doing something, but if they're going to fight it, then I think. But maybe I do have a podcast scheduled, hopefully with bylaw coming on. So yeah, so
they'll answer that question.
We'll grill them with questions and all that stuff. So construction is going on in multiple areas and has become a nightmare. Is that just going to be the way it is until things open up in July?
Gosh, yeah, construction. First, just want to say apologies to Okotokians because it's going to be a tough summer. There's a number of reasons that we're doing that construction. Second Street, we do have a construction on 30th that's kind of east-west to 32nd. That'll be there for sure, like you said, until July. But, with school being let out, hopefully that traffic should die down a little bit. There's no other construction that's going to be happening north-south on 32nd Street, right? It's just the that 370th that we have that closure there because of advancing the water pipeline. But we do have closures in other parts, right? On Milligan, we have one downtown, we have one in Tillotson as well. And those are needed for, for upgrading our infrastructure and also for preparing for the water pipeline. But I do say, like, Okotokians, I hear you, like it's going to be busy. We're all, like, I'm a resident too, and I even sometimes stuck in the traffic too. So I know that it really sucks, but these improvements, they're needed. And we have a short construction season, right? That's the other thing that's really hard here in Alberta. Our construction season is only 4 months, if that, right? And so it's hard that we can't spread it longer, but we do need to get things done within a certain amount of time.
So by the dog stadium and the water pipeline, was that supposed to be, because they closed it for a while and then they reopened, that's going to be that way till July 1st, somewhere in there? Is that the date?
Around there, yeah.
Okay. But was that unexpected?
Well, I don't think it was unexpected per se. It's the notification process was not what we had hoped it would have been. Right. Okay. So there should have been more advance warning about it. And we have apologized for that notification process.
Do you know what I think we should do? Here's what we should do. We should start a program on 2nd Street and we're going to call it Zip It.
Tell me more.
Zipper merge. We have 2 lanes. Sometimes the traffic backs way up and everybody's being so courteous. But if they doubled up and, past the, when you're going south down 32nd, right in front of Shell and Dreams Car Wash, if you double up, we can get double the amount of traffic through the light. And that's also coming north by Costco as well. If we double up the lanes, because people get so mad then if somebody pulls out in that left lane, then they want to race them and not let them in. So if we call it Zip It, we could move a little bit more traffic on 32nd.
No, I like it. I'll bring it to the next council meeting.
Yes,
inquiry.
that's awesome. Do
We'll
it.
rebrand 32nd Street.
You take the credit for it.
Yeah.
And let's do it.
And to want to point to 32nd Street too, so just so folks know, we do have it in our 10-year capital plan to widen it. Like, as you can see on 32nd, it's already prepared so that there will be a doubling of 32nd Street. And folks do get upset when I say that it's in our 10-year capital plan because they want to see it widen now, and I completely hear them. I have a friend that I pick up from and I'm in that traffic. We're not getting out. Like, I get it. So what we're doing, and the way that works, is that we do traffic impact analysis at every point of development. And if those intersections start failing also outside of school hours, and those projects do get advanced, right? So we do hear residents, we know it's a problem. Every time, like the pickleball court, the new high school, the new development, as those things advance, every single time there'll be a traffic impact analysis to look at, are those intersections failing? And if they are, then we move it up. So just because I say it's 10-year capital plan doesn't mean it's set in stone for 10 years.
Yeah.
I don't know if that helps.
I'm sure that's going to be bumped up, because that's 32nd is a nightmare, especially by the schools up north and by the Catholic Church. It's a nightmare, but no. And so we do have fall elections coming up as well. And you mentioned to me that not too many people have put their name in to run for councillor.
Yeah, it's surprising. Well, no one's we had one person in that has their name for councillor. We don't have any mayoral candidates yet, but so that it's open, the process is open. If you've been thinking about running for Okotoks Council, you can put in your nomination papers all the way up until September 22nd. I am surprised that there's not, like this time 4 years ago, there was a lot more candidates. So I don't know if people are waiting, but if you've thought about it, please run.
And sorry, what's the deadline to get your name in?
September 22nd.
September 22nd. Okay. No, that's perfect. Well, something else that makes me really mad about this conversation is that poster behind you, that Connor McDavid poster, Rachel. Yeah.
Sorry, I had to do it. I even had to move over so that everyone could see and cheer on our Oilers.
Yeah, I guess maybe it's time that the cup comes home to Canada.
Yeah.
It's still, as a Flames fan, it's really, it's tough. It would have been easy. Like Winnipeg would have been great.
Would have been even more.
Yeah, would have been great.
I know. And you know what, Carlin? I grew up here in Okotoks, and I was a Flames fan. And when I was 19, me and my girlfriend, I did, because I married an Oilers fan. And sometimes in marriage, I know he's a diehard Oilers.
There is a lot of Oiler fans here. So I know.
Yeah, there's a good contingency.
Yeah. So maybe that's what we should do. Have that on the ballot as to try to get rid of all convert the Oiler fans back to the Flames, right?
Possibly.
I guess we need to put a winning team on the ice in order to get that.
I was going to say, you've got to get a little bit further than the Flames have before you're going to convert anybody.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we do thank you for your service. We know that being a civil servant a lot of times is not easy. No doubt you need to develop a thick skin or stay off social media or not take things at heart, because people certainly do let things fly a little bit too easily on social media. But anybody that sits in public service, I respect so much. And so we do thank you for your 4 years, and certainly do hope you do run again. At least put one more name in the hat for town councillor. So, but I do thank you for your time. Thank you for your service. And we do hope to see your name in the ballot in September.
Thank you very much, Carlin. This was an absolute pleasure. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.